Hello and welcome to my channel. Today is, or at least the day that I'm recording this on, is March 7th, and it's the full moon in Virgo, and Saturn went into Pisces. So kind of wanted to talk about that just a little bit before we get into it. Just because it seemed important. So let's see. I think I have the moon card here. And Virgo. That's the new moon. This is what I get for just going with the flow. Not being prepped ahead of time. Oh my goodness, at this rate. Nope. That's funny, new moon in Pisces. That's what it was at the new moon. Where did you go? There we go. I feel like this is very applicable for today with that combination of energies. So and I'll explain, but I just wanted to very briefly read this. It says it's basically to remind you, while it's lovely to have lofty dreams, you need to ground your desires by taking inspired action. Commune with the heavens, but take practical steps. Find a balance between dreaming big and being practical. It's this... This is very much like what is going on with Saturn going into Pisces. Well, as I've said before, I'm not an astrologer. I've done just a little bit of reading and I listened to a few different people. But what's interesting is what you can learn and figure out by, studying history and like looking at what happened like the last time Saturn was in Pisces. But before we get into that, it's good to know just generally what Saturn is like just as a planet, and then Pisces is like. So as we've been in Pisces season, Pisces is this very dreamy, intuitive, imaginative, go with the flow, very I would say like the opposite of structure, and Saturn is very much about structure. The sign that is at home in Saturn is Capricorn, which makes sense if you look into either of them. I do have a couple of my astrology books here at the side because I had a feeling I was going to pull one or two of them. I only bring this up because it just feels so very important. Let me get to the right page. It says Saturn is the planet of discipline, responsibility, restriction, and limitation. It's been called celestial taskmaster. Some other people liken it to like a teacher or professor. If it's prominent in a birth chart, it tends to be diligent, determined, reliable, industrious. It can incline a person towards pessimism, inflexibility, and selfishness. Whereas I think if we just go over to Pisces, yeah, I think I did a good summary of what Pisces is like. Yeah, emotional, romantic, impressionable, adaptable, highly imaginative, intuitive. Yeah. What is going on is we have, much like how this card described, we're also having the same thing, you know, playing out of these two very opposite things colliding. And I think this one actually has charts in the back here to show when it was last in Pisces. So it looks like, yeah, it was in 1993 through 94, 95, and then into 96. So if you're born around that time, you're going to be going through your Saturn return. And then I think the best way to describe how, or to relay how other people are have been kind of describing this, is that it's like a restructuring. And if you look at what was happening at the time during this era, it makes sense, and it really stands out to me because I'm old enough to remember that time. Actually, I think that's probably one of the oldest memories I have, is a really big event that happened in 93. So, as I'm sure you could tell by my accent, I am American and from the Midwest. If you're not from the US, the Midwest accent is generally what the broadcasters will have. But in 93, there were a lot of really bad floods, and it happened over months, and it really affected a lot of the towns around my hometown. There are different businesses that have different marks on the wall from the floods, and there were a lot of things that happened after the flood of 93 that they did to make improvements with how, you know, we handle those rivers now. So the floods that have happened since weren't nearly as bad, but I definitely remember it because as a kid, a good chunk of my mom's side lives not too far where the flooding got way too close for comfort. Unfortunately, they did not get flooded out, but a lot of people they knew did, and it wreaked a lot of devastation. You know, some businesses just had to be completely gutted. Same thing with buildings, just because of all the water damage. Because the rivers that flooded are the Missouri and the Mississippi, and they're, if you know anything about them, they're very muddy. They're full of clay and silt and all of that, and it just made a big mess. And some of the damage was so great that in certain areas of the town that I grew up in, along the highway, there were sections where only the highway was higher than everything else, so the highway wasn't touched by the river, but you could see the banks along the highway, like where the water line was, just based off of what got swept away. So actually I can kind of do a little sketch here. So I have my little notebook. So, highway would be, this is going to be exaggerated. So you'd have and then the water came up pretty high up, and then this would be like where your highway would be, where like the cars would be. And just growing up and seeing that, and just how everyone talked about it, and just even just experiencing it as like a kid, it was definitely just one of the events. Whenever people talk about 1993, I think about, you know, that flood and that era. So if you want to get an idea of what may be in store for us as far as a restructuring or different turns of events, it'd be good to look at what was going on in 93 through 96 and you know, all the changes that are in store. Yeah. I can't remember when the flooding actually started, but I know it was months that it was going on for. Because I remember like there was a point where we couldn't go visit my grandma because of how everything was, how they were trying to route people around everything, and it just was going to be too much of a hassle. Yeah. Oh, I think my paper is so bright you might not be able to see my little sketch here. I'll redo it here in pen. So if you have the side of the road, the ditch, and then the highway is graded up, and then it comes down and over, the water came up like that. Normally there would not be water there. Normally there's nothing. But of course they've made improvements since then, and done like extensive work, and they have all sorts of stuff that they've done. But yeah, I just felt very called to share that. Definitely look into that. And yeah, I'm going to read this one more time because it feels very important. Having the dreams but grounding it. Commune with the heavens but take practical steps down here. Find a balance between dreaming big and practical. Yeah, because like I said, Pisces is all about dreaming. Saturn is being on task. It's like very studious. I don't know how else to put it. Anyway, so I feel like whatever I pull today is going to be supercharged in a way because of all the stuff we have going on. And then also, it's been trying to rain here, well, recently. It was raining earlier, but it was funny because today in the morning it started off with like a very beautiful spring day. The birds were chirping and singing. You know, it was nice and sunny, but it was kind of chilly. And then this afternoon it just turned dark and gray, and it's been storming on and off here. So whenever it storms here, it's like I get an extra oomph from the universe. So I'm gonna try and be like Saturn and stay on task here and do a week ahead So this should be, even though this is going to be early for the time I'm pulling it for, I feel like it's going to be pretty good. And just as a reminder, as we're going through March, you know, as we're also going through Pisces season, if you're getting stuff coming up from the depths, you know, it's okay to feel those feelings, especially if you're in a place that's safe, you know, to take care of yourself and to feel it and look at it and sit with it, but don't linger in it. Like, let it flow. Be like the two fish, the Pisces, flow with the emotion. That all being said, I think I'm ready to get into it. So if you're new here, this is just a gentle reminder. This is going to be general reading, may or may not resonate with you. Whenever I record this, I don't know what the title is going to be. So if the title brought you in, awesome. It's probably for you. If it doesn't resonate with you, you can check out another reading by me. You can check out another reader. There's tons of great readers on YouTube and Twitch and other places. And I think that's about it. This is going to be the week ahead for March 13th through the 19th. Yeah, I think that's about it. That feels about right. Without further ado, this is going to be the week ahead for Earth signs. So if you have any Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn in your chart, this is going to be your week ahead, and oh goodness, I am feeling drawn towards this deck, which is interesting. I say interesting because in my review of it, I say I don't really use it that often unless I feel really called to do so. And whenever I've used it for myself, it's usually with working with, you know, ancestors and stuff of that nature. So what do the Earth signs need to hear for the week ahead? Okay. And let's get 2 more, please, because that looks to be 1. Oh, that's interesting. We will go over that. Okay, let's get 1 more, please. 1 more. Perfect. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Ten of Hunters reverse. This deck doesn't use the standard suit, meaning sword, pentacle, cups, and wands. It uses other terminology, so hunters are going to be pentacles, watchers are going to be the equivalent of the sword. Really quick, I just want to see if anything flipped. This deck is a little bit harder to see just because of the backs are a similar but different shade than the front, and also the cards like to stick together. It's kind of slow going, I'm sorry. Okay. Nothing flipped. This feels very definitive. So, Ten of Pentacles reverse. The first one to come up was this card here. Wow. I called it. You can rewind. I talked about how I will typically use this for ancestors, and that is a bonus card in this deck. This is a limited edition. It has an extra card in it. But this is all about ancestral healing. And then this is the Beta of Leaders. So this is going to be your Queen of Wands. So let's see. And then you have your Ace of Swords. So right before this, I did the fire signs. They had the Ace of Swords in their reading, and I'll link that to this video. So let me get my little booklet, because this actually has special meaning for this, because there isn't really an equivalent of that card in the standard tarot. So it's a bonus limited edition card. No matter if you have knowledge of your ancestors' history, the focus here is feeling their prayers, lessons, and wisdom that is present in the reading to guide you. You can view this card as an invitation to work with them on a deeper level. Ask them their names, how they are meant to guide you in this time, or simply take a moment to show gratitude for your guidance. If you are privileged to know where your ancestors come from, explore the world through their senses, food, ritual, music, dance. Take a moment to bring their magic back into your daily life. I just wanted to include what the official meaning is, and then I was gonna kind of throw in what I'm getting off of this. So I definitely get the feeling that this is, especially with the sideways cards, if you're new here, I read it sideways as it could be, you know, either or both kind of situation of upright and reverse. So this could be someone that doesn't know a lot about their ancestry, or maybe is ashamed of your ancestors, you know, what has taken place in the past. But remember that even though they are your ancestor, that does not necessarily make them you. Like, you are your own person. And while your ancestors may have done something wrong, that does not necessarily mean that, you know, that you did it, if you will. What's interesting is that this looks like a oh man, I'm gonna struggle with this word today. It looks like a genealogical chart. I know because I've dabbled in some genealogy myself. I was fortunate enough to actually know my great grandma, and she was really into family trees and genealogy and learning where, like, you come from. And that's something that as I got older, and she was still alive, you know, I'd ask her questions, and she would show me stuff that she had done. So I definitely feel like these are tied together here, of, you know, just maybe take a moment of, especially the elders in your life that are still around, to ask them about how they grew up and interesting stories from their life. And if you can, record it, you know, on video, or on audio or however, and then, you know, what they know of their family. And that's the best way to get started on your family tree, is just getting that base level down, you know. You can also do like those tests, but that will only give you kind of a general idea, you know. And I know some people are going to have a harder time following the paper trail. There are some areas of the world that have had their records destroyed for various reasons, whether it's for war or because a building caught fire or something else. So, you know, and there's other circumstances too, like, you know, in the past there have been people that didn't view other people as people, and so they were not recorded as people, and it's going to be much harder to find records, and that's where things like the tests can help supplement that. But even just knowing you know, past your grandparents, or for some people even just knowing who their grandparents were, could be a lot for them. So I definitely feel like that could apply here, of learning where you come from. Now, on the flip side of that, I definitely understand that not everyone has a good relationship with their family, and you could look at it as, when it comes to where you come from, as a journey of where you yourself have come from, taking a broad picture view of how far you've come in your own life, in your own skills, your own abilities, and kind of honoring that within yourself. There's so many ways to go back and kind of do that, honoring your ancestors, but, you know, for yourself, if you don't necessarily resonate with the looking into your family history. And if you want to like dig more into like family histories and trees and all that, local libraries usually have a lot of resources on that, and getting that started. So generally overall, what I'm getting off of this is we have 2 sideways cards that could go either way, and I've already explained the ancestor one, so we're going to leave that one there. And then the Queen of Wands. I feel like, I mean, it definitely all ties in together with the ancestor family history kind of feeling I'm getting here. Sorry, I'm having like some weird hiccups. So what I'm kind of bouncing around here, but what I'm drawn to on this card, with it being the Ace of Swords, is that Ace of Swords can be like the sword of truth, but because I'm kind of called back to that last reading, and also the fact that it says clarity, is we're shining a light, which is very much like the card that came out in the fire signs reading of, you know, literal light being shown. And that one, it was all about a new intellectual pursuit type of thing or learning something new, which would definitely tie in with this. But I will caution you and say, be careful when you research family history and trees and all of that, because sometimes people want the secrets to remain secret. So you have to be careful when you open that box that you could find out more than you bargained for, which I definitely feel like is also what's going on here. It's almost like it's almost like it's I don't know if I'd go so far as a warning. It's a caution. That's the other thing. In that other reading, it was the King of Wands that was sideways. This is a Queen, which I definitely get that same thing of like, it could be all real or real fake. So I'm like having some crazy weird pressure in my right ear. I don't normally get that. To go back to this one, this is like the Ten of Pentacles. But I'm getting more of the like family tree thing. So yeah, with it being reversed, it's like, be careful if you do go down this route. Like, be prepared of learning your family history. Like, you could find out that someone that you thought you were related to, you're not related to, type of thing. Yeah, that's the general gist I'm getting. And also, just to bring it up, this is just one card out of 79 in this deck, so the chances of getting that card are pretty small for how I shuffled. And you saw how much I shuffled, and I shuffled it before I set this deck aside today. So yeah, I think either way, like, no matter how you want to go about with the ancestors, you will get clarity. Whether or not it's the clarity you want, it's definitely up in the air. But be careful. And also, just be cautious whenever you're looking at stuff online, as far as like what to believe when it comes to the paper records and all of that, because sometimes people weren't always truthful on some of those records. Whenever I've done my own research on my own ancestors, I have one ancestor in particular that whenever I was looking at all the different records for like the different marriages, it was like every time, like, even though the wives that he married all said, like, marked that they were divorced, he would always say like, oh, it's his first time marrying on like the marriage certificate. So you just need to make sure that like your dates and all of that makes sense too. But anyway, we can go down like a whole rabbit hole of information when it comes to that. But yeah, I definitely think that's about it when it comes to this, is that it could really, take you down the rabbit hole So be prepared for that. But it can also become really enjoyable, or you could find out something about your relatives that are still around that you would never know by having these conversations, and gain a newfound appreciation for you know, how far your family has come, you know, if you're in a spot like that. Let's get a moon card for you. Moon card do the earth signs need to hear? Apparently you need to. Yeah, that makes sense. We have full moon in Aquarius, be real, and the last quarter moon in Libra, make time for self-love. I feel like both these apply, because by going and digging into your family history, you have to be really real about some of the stuff and face it head on. But you need to be careful with that. So you do need to have time for self-love and self-care, because you may find some stuff when you start turning over some stones. I think there might be something in here for both of those. Here we go. This is what needs to be said. Life goes in cycles, and that's okay. The more you can accept that, the easier this phase will be for you. And then the truth empowers me and sets me free. And then for the last quarter moon in Libra, nothing's really jumping out at me. Here we go. While it's lovely to do things nicely, they also need to be done well. Be sincere. Harmony surrounds me. I am on my path. And then the other thing that was interesting is that the parts that weren't really jumping out at me to read, there was a theme between the two cards, and they were both about people pleasing and people pleasing too much and trying to find a balance between doing that and actually being yourself and taking care of yourself. So, if that resonated, please leave a comment down below. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as always, really appreciate all the watchers, the viewers, the subscribers, and just all of it. And I hope you have a good week, and yeah, if you do get into looking into your family history and all of that, like, I really do hope it's enjoyable for you.